Today we're going to talk about designing a drink, excuse me. We're going to talk about designing a drink table, okay? Now, format's a little bit different today. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to talk about, I got one that I've designed. I've got a vintage one here, and we're going to kind of deconstruct this one that I'm designing, and we're going to kind of go through how this is done, like what we do here at the Resplendent Crow to design things, right? The process that we go to, the way that we think about things. And I got a bunch of kind of notes we have to think about. The truth is that the only thing that we really have an advantage here anymore in America as furniture makers is our design, right? The way that we make things, the options that we give our customers and stuff like that. And truth is that's about the only way that you're gonna make it as a furniture maker in America today, because the competition is so stiff that it's very difficult to outproduce somebody, right? Or to have a more innovative way to do something. It's very difficult. It's not to say that it can't be done. Of course it can be, but it's very difficult, you know? So we'll talk about the design thing, and we're gonna go over exactly the steps I go. I'm gonna show you guys the things that I messed up. I'm gonna show you, I got a whole bunch of jigs over there that I kind of made that are just didn't work, you know, to be quite honest with you. And we'll go over it all, again, to show you kind of my process. And because truth is that I make so much furniture, and it's all unique, it's all custom, but we also have production lines, right? This is stuff that we already have jigs for, we already have CNC programs, drawings, all kinds of things. And a little bit, we just get to do a little bit of all of it here, which is kind of cool. So anyway, my name is Eric Wilk. I own the Resplendent Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri, and we are a small furniture company. We have 7 employees. We do a small 7-figures in revenue, and we paint furniture, we make furniture, we have production line furniture, we have customer pieces that come in. There's all kinds of ways that we make money as a small business, and we also make our own hardware, our own brass hardware. We import from India. We work with factories over there to make and help us with our brass hardware. So that's kind of how we make money. So where I thought we would start is I thought we'd start about, I went ahead and I put myself a drink on my little drink table here, and I wrote down a bunch of notes, but I'll get back to my notes in a second. Okay, so truth is that as furniture makers, we have to be quick, we have to be nimble, we have to create things in very quick amounts of time, right? We have to be really good at a lot of things. And this is one of the things that I see as a big problem with most makers today. Most makers, they want to utilize very modern methods of technology. They want to make sure they have CAD drawings for everything. They want to use SketchUp before they ever make anything. And truth is that you have to be able to do this stuff without any of that. That's what really makes you a good maker, right? To be a really good furniture maker, to make anything, you have to be able to see it in your head before a computer can design it for you, right? Before you can actually visualize it on a screen, you have to be able to put it together in your head, right? Know all the fabrication techniques, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so we'll start off with this particular drink table, okay? So this is a vintage drink table. Nothing special about it. Got a little bit of gilding around here. We got some sunflower motifs going on here. And then we got some modern, this is probably cut out on some kind of a mill, right? It's not the most like special drink table in the world, right? But if we look at the construction underneath, you know, we've got old school screws under there, and it's just your typical pedestal, right? You got a block that attaches the top, and then you got some kind of a base. In this case, it's just a 3-sided base with a couple of ball feet. I mean, very simple kind of construction method. And truth is this is all you need. Right? It doesn't require some kind of special new age technology to be successful as a furniture maker. Okay, so that's what we got going on here. And this piece is all put together. You can see it's cracked out, it's old, you know, and we paint furniture here at the Resplendent Crow. So we would sand this thing down flat anyway, and then we'll prime it and we'll end up painting it. Now, if a customer wanted this, you know, we'd sand this thing down to, if this is veneer, yeah, it looks like this is veneer. So we'd sand this veneer down, we'd just refinish the top of it, and that'd be the end of it. But truth is that's probably not what we're gonna do it. So we got that. Then we've got the one that I'm working on, right? So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna show you guys the thing that I'm working on, and it's not glued together. There's no screws, there's no fasteners. It's all held together with friction, right, or joints. So I'm gonna show you it real quick right here, and I'm gonna go over my bench, and we're gonna disassemble this thing. We're gonna disassemble it, kind of look at it. We'll talk about each component, and we'll look at all the different things that I screwed up in the different kind of stuff that I have over here on my bench, and just kind of show you guys exactly what this process is. And this is the most basic piece of furniture. So I thought I could keep people's attention long enough to show them this kind of basic thing here. Okay, so we got people coming in. Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, we got OG Laborer 66. Maybe it's a dog thing, I don't know. Then we got Error, I see Error in here. Good to see you. So yeah, Error is in here, please give me a shout out. Yep, good to see you. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Again, hit the like button. and hit the subscribe button. You know, this is a furniture channel, right? We talk furniture, about the business of furniture. We talk about making furniture. We talk about the business of painting, and I show you guys the business of painting, right? And it's a hard business, but it's a good business. Okay, so we got Resplendent Crow coaster. Okay, so what we got here is, let's see if I can keep this thing together. So this is just a little drink table, right? Very basic, not much to it, okay? Just legs. We've got a small little dished out spreader deal here. People can put whatever they want there, but the purpose of it is just to keep the legs spaced out. That's really the purpose of this, right? And then we've got, of course, our top, which we've got a support structure underneath, which our leg joins into, right? It's fit inside of this 3/4 inch piece here. And then we have an actual top that's also been dished out that is completely separate. It doesn't go together. So you guys see it's all loose, right? So I'll go over to the bench here, we'll break this thing down, and we'll kind of look at exactly how this is made. I'll show you guys the tools that I was using, like the pin routers and stuff that I'm kind of known for. We'll kind of talk about stuff. So give me just 1 second, and we'll, let me grab I got this thing on a steady cam this time. I'll walk over here, we'll go over to the bench, and this bench is full of crap because I've got a million projects in this room. This room is just full of freaking furniture. I've got 2 dressers going on, I've got a china cabinet, I've got 2 credenzas, I've got an upright desk, and I have a 80-inch faux bamboo credenza. I've got a pagoda china cabinet. I mean, what is that, like eight pieces of furniture going on at one point? Kind of insane. All right, so we've got our little table right here, okay? So the truth is that when we're designing this thing, we got to think about a lot of different things, like what can I sell this thing for? Does it even make sense to make this thing? Is there a demand for it, right? And it's difficult to come up with something that people are going to want. Like, you really got to understand your customer, kind of what they're looking for. But the first part of this thing is literally just a dished out piece of 1/2-inch MDF, right? I made an MDF because it's simple. I don't need to make anything, you know, some kind of exotic wood, because we're prototyping. That's all we're doing here, is just creating a prototype for this entire drink table. So all we did was run over on a pin router. We created this on a pin router, okay? Now, the method to do that is jig making, right? Which everyone kind of knows about jig making. I'm not talking about anything special here. But what we had to do is we had to actually create a whole bunch of circles here to get this kind of flowery pattern, right? And you can see on the bottom what the pin router does, right? It just dishes out the entire inside of this thing, okay? Now, the way to do that is you have to initially come up with your jig, right, for making all this kind of stuff. So you make something kind of like that, right? And that is something that you can then put on your part, right? And then you literally have to take your router and you have to route each one of these things out after you've created all of your points, right? So there's a lot of planning that goes into making something like this, okay? Now, in order to get a router to be able to turn a radius that tight, you need a jig. And the way that thing works is simply just put a 1/4 inch dowel in here, and then you drill a 1/4 inch hole on your jig, and then you double side stick your jig to your router, and then you can literally just turn it, right? You just turn it right on that pivot point, basically. And that's how you start to create these little kind of radiuses and little parts, basically. Do it in kind of a way that's not, you know, too cumbersome. But you got to be able to do this stuff quickly, you know? So you can't have some kind of a bought jig for everything. You have to be able to just kind of use your head, because the truth is, woodworking is only like a dozen skills. Like, it's not like there's 1,000 disciplines to making a piece of furniture. There's like 12 techniques or rules that you need to know, and that's really about all there is to it. So anyway, so we got our dished out part, okay? So next thing, we have to have some way to attach a 1/2-inch piece of material, right, to some 25-inch legs. So what we got going on here now is, you can see the top of our piece here, okay? Top of our piece here, these legs are pressure fit inside of here, right? So they're not loose, they're actually, everything's nice and tight, which is what we want. So when we're making our master jigs, we'll make sure that these are all exactly the same. That way we make our legs, we know that every leg is gonna fit tight. And that's kind of where we start with our product, okay? Now, the other thing is, you guys will notice that this is just a step down version of the top, right? So that means you gotta be able to do setbacks, right? And then different kinds of rules for setbacks. That's where that pin router comes in. The pin router is this tool that's gonna allow you to do lots of kind of offsetting very quickly. And we're gonna go over the pin router in just a minute, okay? Give me like 2 minutes and we'll run over the pin router, okay? So that's where that comes, okay? So now we're on to our legs, right? So our legs are just basic. These are just gonna be basic tapered legs, right? Nothing special about them. They're 1.5 inches up top, and they're gonna be 3/4 inch at the bottom, right? So you got just a slight taper along there, okay? Now, in order to make tapered legs, one of the things that we do is we'll make a couple of these things, and then I farm it all out. I don't make any of my, well, since I don't make any, I don't make most of my legs anymore, because generally my production is high enough that it doesn't make sense for me to get on a saw and make, and even if I make a jig, it just doesn't make any sense to, make that jig so we can make one cut, turn it, make another cut, turn it, make another cut, because even on a table saw, you're not gonna get a perfectly straight cut, because truth is table saw blades move, even the high quality ones, so you still gotta go over the edge sander to get a really nice cut. The people that make legs that are professionals, they have the fastest methods, and their legs are perfect every time they come down, every time they show up. So anyway, all right, so the last component is our bottom support, okay? And the bottom support is gonna be dished out just like the top, right? So the top is like so, dished out piece of 1/2 inch. This is a dished out piece of 1/2 inch. And again, if you look on the back, we've got all of our our lines where we need to cut this thing out in order to get it to be at the right height, right? Because our leg's tapered, we have to make sure that all of our cuts are exactly the same. All right, so it's kind of important. So that's one of the things that we are doing, when we make these kind of things. Okay, now last thing is our leg, right? So our leg, those things to come out of there. Again, tapered, very simple leg. Nothing needs to be complicated, okay? We sell a lot of different kinds of furniture, and truth is, people like simplicity. Simplicity sells every time. You don't always have to create the most amazing piece of furniture to get people to buy it. In fact, it can be too expensive, and you get people that just won't pay the money. So anyway, that's what we got going here, okay? So we'll run over to the pin router, and I'll show you guys exactly how this whole situation works, right? So here's the opposite side of our top, right here. Here's our dished out top. The opposite side goes like that, right? Just kind of offset them like so. So that's what we have kind of going on here. Around, so it looks like. Now the same motif is used. We got this double waterfall kind of a look here. All right, we got router bits for that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's the initial design, okay? So we're gonna go to the pin router, and we'll show you guys exactly how this stuff's done. And it's a cool tool. So everyone should have access to a pin router. It's a fantastic old world tool that just makes prototyping so easy, right? Because most of us don't have access to a CNC router that we can use fairly quickly. Generally, CNC routing takes a little bit of planning, and we don't always have time for all the planning, okay? So, all right, so over our pin router, flip this thing around here real quick. All right, I'm gonna go to my comments real quick. Yeah, this is the pin router that I use. It's just an inverted pin router, but it's a Delta. Anyway, okay, so who else we got going here? Okay, we got, let's see, Jermaine Jr. So do you have any experience with making guitar? Have no experience. Are your legs tapered? Yeah, and I answered that question. Yes, our legs are tapered. And no, I don't have any experience making guitars. I've played guitar my entire life. I used to play in a lot of metal bands. But making a guitar is not that difficult. It really isn't. And a pin router is the perfect tool for making a guitar, because basically your guitar body is going to have a jig, right? You would make a jig for your guitar body, and you could even take an old guitar and just use the body as the jig. That's a great thing about a pin router. So here, I'll flip my camera around. So if you want to make a guitar body, okay, what you have to think about is, you might take the classic, Gibson SG. The Gibson SG would have a particular shape, right? Like this particular thing is shaped kind of like a flower, right? So you would just take some wood, create that shape of the SG, right? Or whatever kind of guitar you wanted, and then you would put that particular jig on top of your master piece of maple or mahogany or whatever you want to make your guitar body out of, and then you can run that jig. The jig would run along this pin that you have right here, and then the router bit comes up from underneath. See the router bit moving? Router bit comes underneath and creates that pattern, whatever your guitar body is, So I hope that kind of makes sense. And the truth is, when you're creating that outer body, right, then you got to think about your pickups, and you got to think about your electronics on the back side, right? So your pin router can route all of those details in as well, provided you put those locations on your jig. Then you turn the thing over, your body of mahogany or whatever you're making your guitar body out of, and same thing. And you do the cutout for your electronics, right? then you, of course, run a hole through the front to the back, and you can run all your pickups and all that good stuff. So it's not that complicated. When it comes to putting your neck in a guitar body, you know, you'll want something like a mortising jig. You know, you'll want a router, basically a plunge router. Would do it with a with some kind of a plunge. A plunging jig, right? So you can basically just do a mortise. So anyway, it's not super complicated. So maybe I could do a video on it. It's I thought about making a guitar from time to time. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna go back to my pin router here. Sorry guys, let me move my stand over here. My stand just happens to be a massive piece of foam. All right, so flip over here. Like I said, I don't know if people are gonna like this kind of content, but that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so back to the pin router. Okay, so come back over here. Let me get my camera set up and I'll go back to what I'm doing here. Okay, so what we got going on is the pin router itself is, so what you'll end up doing is you'll end up, oh shit. Uh-oh, did we lose our, oh no, what a bummer. I guess my battery is dead, that sucks. Okay, all right, hold on guys. We're gonna go the other way here. Okay, so we're gonna do with our pin router is, what you got going on here is you have 1/2" MDF, right? So your jig that I was just telling you guys about, your jig is actually gonna get double-sided tape onto your MDF, right? And double-sided tape, you know, some people, there's things like carpet tape and all that kind of stuff. Like that's not what you want. You want actual, it's gonna be a polyurethane double-sided tape, and is it IPS, I think, was the company that makes really good double-sided tape. And this is from tapedepot.com. You can buy this stuff for probably like $12 a roll. It's kind of pricey, but anyway, it works good. But anyway, you put your jig onto your piece of 1/2" MDF, and then you can actually run your part along your pin router like so, and it will just mimic whatever's on the pin router underneath, right? So it's an easy way to make prototypes for all the stuff that you want to do, okay? Now, the other component to prototyping is production, right? So when I labeled this particular talk, I was talking about, you know, how you can use this for production, okay? So we're gonna come back over here, back over to the bench, and we're gonna look at some more of these components, okay? So once you actually have something that you like, right? You like this particular, double waterfall detail. You got your cutouts and all that kind of stuff going on here. These of course are all the F-ups, right? This is all stuff where the router bit went through the material. There's all kinds of things that happen, okay? So truth is that once you come up with good components, that's when the programming starts. That's when you start creating a drawing. And a lot of people go at it backwards. They start with a drawing, and then they start making stuff and realize that, they don't like the way it looks, So one of the things we do is we create everything first, and when I'm creating a lot of my drawings and I'm creating a lot of the stuff that I want to make, I literally just sketch it out on a piece of paper. Yes, I'll use models and stuff like that from time to time, but for the most part, I'm going to draw something out. Like I'm going to draw out shapes that I like. I'm going to draw out, just sketch out with a pencil, on a piece of paper. I just start sketching out what I want, rough dimensions. I came over here to this drink table right here. Over here, this drink table, and this is kind of the thing that I used to kind of understand the height that I wanted my initial drink table to be, right? My wife told me she wanted this thing. That's what we were thinking about. I was like, well, how high is the average drink table? And, you kind of look at it from a normal chair. If I bust out my tape measure, we see that we've got, it's about 26 inches, something like that, right? About 26 inches. You look at the height of a chair. This chair's, what is this, about 22 inches to where your ass would be. So we look at all this kind of stuff, and I literally just start making things. I don't program at all. I don't do any of that shit. I just start making, right? Because truth is that once I get the height right, I get the design right, I try out different kinds of router bits and all this kind of stuff, then I go into my SolidWorks CAD program and I start modeling everything out. And I'll start modeling that stuff out and start coming up with all the DXF files, and then I'll send all those files over to my CNC guy, right? And then I'll tell him, hey, I need this cut out of whatever, 1/2" plywood, 1/2" MDF. We're going to make this out of mahogany. I'll send over some mahogany or whatever. We're going to dish out a piece of, whatever it might be. Point is that I do the modeling and all the G code and all the CNC stuff is all later at the end. It's not in the beginning. And that's one of the ways that we are able to program, or we're able to make things quickly. We're able to come up with a lot of different kinds of prototypes and a lot of different designs. Much faster than I think most people would. Like we can just dive into something and go after it. We don't have to wait for, we don't have to wait for the programs to be ready. We don't have to wait for there to be time on a CNC router. When we have a tool like a pin router, we can just, again, start making stuff and just start throwing shit against the wall and seeing what kind of works. And we're able to be super quick when it comes to making stuff. Now, the production side, okay? So I'm gonna go back over here. I'm gonna sit down on my chair here. I've got my notes here. I'm gonna start going over some of these notes that I have. And we'll go from there. So put this thing in here. Okay, so, sorry guys. Like I said, new way of doing things today. Try out some different stuff here. All right, so some of the stuff that I want to go over is so I showed you guys exactly how I made this little drink thing, right? Tapered legs, dish top, dish bottom, and super basic construction, like nothing wild. Simple router bits, waterfall router bits, radius router bits. The pin router is kind of the secret, right? I've got a video on my YouTube which is all about pin routers. It's not great, but it is there. Truth is that once you do that, get all that stuff over to the CNC program, you can, design the crap out. And the truth is that most good CNC people will be able to tell you how much time it's going to take to make your batch of parts or your kit of parts, okay? They can also tell you, the price of all this kind of stuff, so you can figure out exactly what it's going to cost to get that kit of materials back into our shop, right? So we can determine what we need to sell this thing for to see if it makes sense to hit that kind of 60 to 90% profit margin that we want to have on everything that we make. That's the goal. When you're making new furniture, when you're making something like that, you need to be aiming for a very high profit margin. It's you can get it depending on what it is you're selling. People generally tend to associate size with price. So a drink table would be tough. Okay, so okay, I got my notes here. I'm gonna go over some notes. And okay, what else? We got some more stuff on here. Let's see. Glabber says 30 inches. I don't know what 30 inches, dude. Drink tables I said my first drink table I made was 30 inches, and my wife looked at it and she's just like, this is ridiculous. This is horrible. That's one of the reasons we check everything out, right? We make sure I got a chair here. I'm just gonna sit in this chair. I'm gonna get myself a drink. I'm gonna sit on there. I'm gonna make sure that everything works. So, yes, there are standards for things. Don't get me wrong, but you always want to try and test stuff out and see how it's going to work. So anyway, okay. So one of the things that you need to think about when designing things is you need to think about vertical integration, which is I don't know. It's kind of a sexy word that educated people like to use. And the truth is all that it means is that you can make shit locally. That's really all it means, right? You own the means of production. And one of the things that we try and do is when we make stuff, I don't generally make anything that I can't make right here in my factory in St. Louis, okay? So there are things where, yeah, you can get a CNC package cut, you can get legs turned in Pennsylvania, you can buy, exotic hardwoods from Indiana or wherever, but at the end of the day, when shit hits the fan or the CNC guy goes down, the hardwoods are no longer available, the leg company goes out of business, right? At the end of the day, you can all make it here if you have to and still make things work until you get things back online. So I like to talk about that because we got a lot of this tariff kind of conversation. Everyone's talking about where things are made, shipping, and getting things in. And one of the great things about furniture is that a lot of furniture is made in America. We still have the infrastructure and the knowledge to make furniture, right? It's not like making t-shirts where no one knows how to run a shuttle bobbin, whatever it is to make fabrics, all that kind of stuff. A loom, no one knows any of that shit anymore. But we do have a lot of woodworking stuff here and a lot of a lot of woodworking type stuff. There's a lot of knowledge and technology here. So anyway, you need to be able to make stuff yourself. And this is why I'm showing you guys the pin router. I show everyone kind of run it through my shop. Like, it's very important that you're someone that can actually make something, because if you rely on other people to do everything for you, you're going to get yourself in you're going to run into problems, okay? And I know this because I've been in business a long time, and we all kind of run out of stuff from time to time. We'll either forget to order something's on back order, a material isn't available for a while, right? You're waiting for the mill to bring something in, and you just have to be vertically integrated. Like, it's so important, guys. So yeah, I wanted to mention that real quick. One of the other things that I wrote down was creating drawings. Okay, everyone talks about drawings. When I was talking earlier, I told you guys that I don't make drawings at first. That's not how I operate. When I want to create something for myself, I generally sketch it out on a piece of paper, like real rough, and then I just start whacking out parts. Like that's how I've done it forever. Because there's only like 5 or 6 kinds of legs. It's not like your leg is so special that it requires a bunch of planning. It just doesn't work that way. There's, you got a square leg, you got a round leg, you got a tapered leg, you got curved Frenchy legs. Like that's really about it. There's not a lot of creativity when it comes to legs. It's the same thing with all your components, end panels, bases, mid panels. There's nothing that requires a ton of engineering, right? So people kind of overdo, the planning stage, so to speak. So drawings are very important, and it's very important to have a tool that you can go back to so that you can make stuff. Because truth is, here at the Resplendent Crow, at this point, we probably make 50 different kinds of furniture, and I can make all of it. I've made all of it, right? But the truth is, I can't remember how to make all of it. I can get pretty close, but it's very difficult to nail every single facet of every cabinet. Like you just start to forget over time. So a drawing is really only there to remind you, right? Like there was a guy asking about making guitars. Truth is that as a musician, like I said, I played metal bands for, I don't know, probably 12 years, long time. And truth is, you can't remember all the songs, even the shit you wrote. You can't remember everything. Listening to, like, everyone knows how to play AC/DC's Back in Black, but man, I never remember the chorus. Like I remember the opening riff, and that's really about it, So you gotta have something you can kind of go back to kind of remember, oh yeah, that's the chord progression, or like, oh, that's how you play that scale, that's the lick, and all those kind of things. And it's the same thing with drawings. Drawings are there for you to remember how to make something fairly quickly, but they're also for, if you are able to scale your business, it gives you a tool for your employees, right? Because truth is, drawing's awesome. There's no doubt about it, but it's not where you start. And I think a lot of people miss that. They think that the drawing is kind of where the planning, the programming, there's way too much emphasis put on planning in my estimation. Once I know something's going to work, then I deal with all that. Like I want to make stuff. I don't want to be, glued to a computer the whole time. So anyway, that's why I got to go on here. Okay. So other thing I wrote down, let's see here. So the other thing I wrote down is what can be made for profit versus ego. Okay, so this is one thing that I had to learn the hard way. Okay, truth is that like a lot of other woodworkers, I think I'm the best woodworker there is, right? Like I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anyone, okay? But at the end of the day, you have to make money, right? And this is where I get frustrated with YouTube woodworkers, right? Because they always show you all this crazy stuff, but they're making their money on advertising and entertaining you, right? They're not making it on furniture. We're a furniture company. We have to make our money selling furniture, right? If nobody buys my furniture, then I'm out of business, right? Whereas, BetterHelp and the boner pill companies love to go to woodworkers on YouTube and sell them advertising because they don't actually sell furniture, So anyway, it's a very different business model, okay? So truth is that we have to make things that we know we can reproduce in a reasonable amount of time, and we have to be able to pay other people to make things. It can't always be about us, right? Because truth is that I've got no problem sitting down and whittling out griffins and crazy table legs and stuff like that, but I'll never make any money at it, right? Or if I want to make all my cabinets using brass, which I've got a lot of videos about making furniture with brass, truth is that most people can't do it. They don't have the patience, they don't have the skill, and a lot of people just don't want to do that kind of work, right? So I have to do things that people actually want to do, right? That I can hire people to do, that people can stay, mildly entertained with it, mildly interested, better way to put it, So anyways, you got to be real careful with the ego thing, right? And this goes back to that always starting with the CAD and showing off your beautiful models and your beautiful renderings and all this kind of stuff. It's like, you just need to make something and just go with it, And for us, we have to be able to make money, So I wrote that down. I thought that was kind of important. That's one of the reasons that when I designed this drink table, like I'm not going, batshit crazy with, doing carving or crazy embellishments and onlays and stuff like that, because it's not necessary. Like our customers like big, they like furniture that's very bright and is very glossy. And truth is that we have a lot of rounded edges, a lot of complex curvature and ornate details. It doesn't show as well. Believe it or not, when it comes to glossy furniture, the best kind of furniture is the flatter the better. And it's, you can have mild radiuses and things like that, which looks good, but you get too much detail and it just doesn't look good. So it's a whole different business model when you're painting furniture versus doing like stain grade furniture. So I wanted to write that down and talk about that. And then I wrote down lead times. What did I write down? Yeah, lead times, expectations versus reality. Okay, truth is that when you make something, you have to hit a price point. And again, this is the difference between people that make stuff in the real world and like YouTube. Okay, the people that are showing you how to make stuff on YouTube don't have to make any money with their furniture. Okay, so here at the Resplendent Crow, we can sell. I mean, we sell $20,000 desks. We also sell $300 lamps. You know, we have just this massive gap between the highest end product and the lowest end product. And the truth is that whatever I sell, while I can sell a higher tier product, has to meet my customers' expectations. And truth is that the lower the price, the less a customer is willing to wait for something, right? So if I'm making, if I make my executive campaign brass desk, right, which there's a video on my YouTube channel. If anyone's into the YouTube game, you see how I make this thing. Only celebrities own that piece, by the way. So watch the video, guess which celebrities own that desk. If I make that desk, someone will wait 3 or 4 months for me to make that thing. They've got no problems waiting, right? But if I'm gonna make the drink table that I just showed you, that drink table, you know, say that thing's gonna be, I don't know, just say, I envision maybe $1,800 to $2,000 is what I would try and sell that thing for. You know, that person's gonna wait 8 to 10 weeks at best. You know, so lead times, lead times are a thing, especially when you're a furniture company, right? You can't just take forever. So it's very important that if you're at a lower price point, that your lead times have to kind of match up with this. So no one's going to wait forever for something that's cheap, and vice versa, right? So the last thing I wrote down, and then we're going to be done with this conversation today, is this. Everyone's heard of the three-legged stool, where you got price, speed, and quality, right? You can have two. It's very hard to get all three, you know. So it's very important that people kind of understand this dynamic, right? Like, you can sell a very expensive product and you can get that product very fast, but the quality is going to be crap, right? Or you can, you know, make something super fast of really high quality, you know, but the price is going to be through the roof, you know? So this is kind of things you think about as a furniture maker and as a business owner that has to navigate, you know, turning over product in a reasonable amount of time, right? What a customer is willing to pay for and what a customer's expectations are really about. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to show you guys today. I'm going to have more about this drink table. I'll do a couple more videos about this kind of stuff, or live streams. I'll do a couple more live streams about where this thing comes from as far as the production, right? Because I just showed you guys a prototype, which is all MDF and quick cuts and stuff like that. But once we do the production side of it, maybe I can take you guys over to the CNC company and then show you guys how this stuff gets cut out and what an actual CNC company looks like, right? Because it's a lot of times it's a guy in his garage, or it's, you know, some company that's, I don't know, it's kind of all kinds of wacky shit. Like the company that I use, that's all they do is cut out furniture stuff. It's all furniture-based parts, and they're basically into cutting kits. And they use massive machines. These aren't your little you know, home machines. They're the shop savers, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think that's what I'm gonna talk about today. I think that's gonna cover it. I don't know if there's anything else, guys. I think that's about it. Comments are a little light today, which is fine. I appreciate everyone hanging in and just kind of seeing what I had going on today. I thought it'd be a good conversation to just kind of show you guys this is how I do it. I don't make drawings. I don't do models and stuff up front. I just start cutting and gunning. That's like all that I'm doing. I just, you know, that's my process, you know. So anyway, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and we'll do this again probably on Monday. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about, but 4 o'clock I do my talks. Friday I do what's in the shop. You know, I did my last what's in the shop. Had some cool china cabinets. If you guys want to go see that stuff, I got this china cabinet behind me is almost done. It's I'm trying to do a video on it, right? So I got, I'll have that video out probably in the next, I would say probably the next 2 weeks, because now we have to sand it, we have to prime it, and then we have to paint it, and then we have to reassemble it, and we have to do videos on all that stuff, right? So that's gonna be a multi-week process. And then we got to do the video editing, which video editing, as everyone knows, takes forever. You know, so that's just kind of how it goes. One of the reasons I like doing the live streams. So anyway, everyone have a fantastic weekend, and we'll do this again on Monday.